Welcome to the Patrice Brantley Show, where helping others is the name of our game, and we push purpose, positivity, and personal growth. All right, y'all, we got an awesome show today. We're going to be speaking with Miss Briana Green. She's going to be sharing with us all about how things are going to be changing, policies, what can we do as a classroom, as teachers, as parents, and even having students have a seat at the table in decision making. We got a lot more for you. So I need y'all to stay tuned for this. But I need you to make sure that you definitely keep in connection with me. Make sure you follow me on all socials at YouTube and on IG and on Facebook. It is Patrice Brantley Now. And also to get you some teacher health tips, make sure you follow me at the 3S Movement. Hey, and if you say, Patrice, I want to spend some time with you, I want to come do a group, I want to come do some sessions. I just want to have a time to have a vent session. Come on over, check us out at the 3smovement.com. Wow, listen. I need y'all to get your hands together. I need y'all to come on, get your hands together, get your hands together. Don't get quiet on me now, y'all. Come on, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Put your hands together for Miss Briana.
Hello, everyone. I am Briana Green. I am a good old Southern girl. I'm from North Carolina. I'm born and raised in North Carolina. I'm a newly become a mother. I have a 8-month old son that I love and adore. I began my journey in education um, a little over 15 years ago, I guess. I've always worked with kids in some kind of capacity before I knew that I wanted to pursue education. I studied business and marketing education at NC State, where I also pursued a master's in curriculum and instruction with a focus in educational psychology. I'm currently a doctoral candidate at Michigan State University, where I study ed psych and ed tech. Um, Over the last 8 years or so, I've worked in a number of collaborative projects with community partners and practitioners to create STEM learning experiences for Black and Brown students. I love to think deeply about how Black teachers, Black students can feel that they belong, are accepted, respected, valued in their schools. And some of that is through decision making processes. I love to think deeply about the intersections of culture and technology with our students in their learning, but also in just like life skill development. And
So I gotta jump in here real quick. So y'all see, I just want y'all to see the level and the caliber, right? So y'all know she's a heavy hitter, right? This is bad. So I gotta get into this because she done gave me so much good stuff. I want to ask some more questions to this interview, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hold on. I would love for you to give us what is your story? What led you into the classroom for that passion to teach?
so I shared this a little bit. It was an interest so my experience in the classroom did not start when I guess got a teaching license. Um, I pursued education after 3 years in engineering. So I thought I was going to school to be an engineer. I got accepted as an engineer. Um, and then I realized that on some level, the university or the prep that I had for schooling, um, I wasn't ready for how advanced the courses were. Like, if I'm being honest, I just wasn't advanced for where the courses were. I had done the summer transition program for minority students. Like, I had a good support system. The rigor just wasn't there. And I don't think that I was really interested in engineering. I had been told I was good at math and science. And so that's kind of why I pursued engineering. I switched to like a form of engineering education before I was like, you know what? I like business. I did all the CTE business courses. Like I can teach this. And so that's what I ended up pursuing. And in my 5th year, I met a mentor who's now a mentor, a professor at the university who was beginning a 3-year NSF project, a National Science Foundation project. And I came on as a curriculum developer for that community project. We partnered with 2 schools in a neighboring school district. Um, and that was my first like classroom experience outside of student teaching. It was working with these about 13 teachers,
Okay.
and I was going in and observing in their classrooms. We were creating curriculum together, and that was my insight into classrooms. Um, Went on to continue some education research that allowed me to see into more classrooms through some um, grant-funded studies. Work with some community partners again with thinking about like boxing and computer science. I did some things with like hair braiding and computer science. Some really cool things. Um, and so my traditional route wasn't straight into the classroom. It was in this doctoral process, though, that I felt really disconnected from the classroom, right? So I'm doing these projects that are meaningful. The kids, we're getting artifacts and narratives that the students are learning more about STEM, but I just felt so disconnected to like, what is going on disciplinary wise in the classrooms? What's going on with like
Mm.
more so learning objectives, because when you're working on some of these projects, they're not connected to learning, they're not connected to standards, they're connected to outcome that we're going to measure for, but that is not always related to standards and realities of a classroom, so
I love how you just said that, how you brought that out, because many times on the other side, teachers are just told, hey, teach this. And
mhm.
you're given this book or you're given a curriculum or something new that someone has said, okay, this is it, right? The new fresh thing, and you get it and you realize, like you said, there is a major disconnection. There is the, hey, somebody thought this was a good theory, but now putting it into practice, this has nothing to do with this. And there have been a lot of different pieces that now people are finding, reading curriculums that have been placed in over decades ago. People are now saying that didn't work, and now we have this huge gap where kids are not being able to read, or kids are being told, hey, you graduated at 12th grade, but you're graduating really reading on a 6th grade level, which is below an average American newspaper, which is at a level 8 grade level. So I love how you brought that up about that disconnect. Please keep going. I'm sorry. I jumped in
Yeah,
there, but I had to get to that piece.
no, because I think that again, I started in research as a pre-service teacher. There's concepts and theories that you're not introduced to when you're first going through teacher
Hmm.
prep, right? And so for me, I was just getting I'm learning all these theories, these concepts, but like, what does behavioralism look like in a classroom? And I haven't had to line kids up in kindergarten since the last time I substituted in a kindergarten classroom, And
That's
some of us don't
interesting.
substitute in classrooms. Some of us don't have classroom experience when we become researchers. So it for me, it was, how am I teaching about these concepts? And like, I haven't applied them maybe in a kindergarten classroom before. Or like, I don't have examples sometimes when I'm teaching these to my undergrad students. Like I didn't like that disconnect for myself. And I think that takes
Wow.
some reflection and some, where do I want to be? How, like when I'm talking to teachers 5 years from now, how much will it be
Hmm.
rooted in abstract versus in real lived experience? Like that was really important to me. um, and so COVID happened. Campuses were like, yeah, you can work from home and all this. So I moved back to
Hmm.
North Carolina. I moved back to North Carolina. And in my hometown, I was presented an opportunity to join the administrative staff of a small charter school. And for me, that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm going to take what I know. I'm going to be open to what I don't know. But I think before I move further as a researcher, I need some on the ground experience, particularly after COVID, right? Because what we
Yes.
thought or what we did know about school systems and students and what works may not work in what we're about to live in and what we're about to experience. And so that's where I came into more traditional classroom experience after about 6, 7 years of doing education research.
I love that because this to me kind of walks into the a bit of the turning point, because for so many people it's just here's the new thing, let's make it work. And I love that you literally took the effort and the risk, dare I say,
Mhm.
the risk to say, you know what, I don't want to just be that person who is saying, yes, I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. This is what I have on this paper. You're literally saying, I want to step outside of just the office and I want to go in these classrooms. I want to see, is this actual theory? Is this piece that is created in this book or in this curriculum something that can actually go and help these children go and grow? And I think that's an amazing piece. And then, as you talked about it, you've now moved from that the office to the classroom. How did you see it in this charter space? How did you feel the teachers were taken care of?
This is a very complex, nuanced question. So,
Uh-huh.
I walked into a space that, if we're being honest, COVID and ESSER funds afforded schools to think differently if they were willing to, right? So,
Okay.
um, this school in particular had created a like teacher wellness room that had like massage chairs in it, so it could give teachers a break. At the time, they had a mental health specialist on staff. She was a certified nurse with also like mental health certifications and things. So that provided teachers the opportunities to go have check-ins with this person and, vent if they needed to, or breathe, or, you know, just have some mental support, mental, emotional, social emotional support. Um, there were some other initiatives. They had a retreat that they were beginning to do annually to support teachers to like be in community with other teachers. Um, so in this particular space, there were these initiatives to support the teachers' well-being. Um,
Okay.
and while I think that is one way that we can support our teachers, I think that there's like two sides of the coin in a way, because where I came in as more instructional support, um, or an instructional leader, if you will, what
Hmm.
I noticed is that where they had been getting a lot of support with decompressing, they
Okay.
weren't much supported with like pedagogy and
Okay.
understanding having a defined and complete curriculum with a pacing guide. So there was ways that they were being taken care of, but when you think about a teacher's number one job being the instructional leader in their classroom, I think that if we're not thinking about both of those things, some of our efforts can be in vain.
I love how you said that because you brought up a good light, right? This particular location where you were, they had the finances to do the fancy outside stuff, right? It looks great on the outside. All the physical stuff is there. Hey, go get in the relaxation chair, go have the stretches, go do that. And that is a part of the mental wellness. But it's also another piece of getting to the root. I think a lot of people forget that, and I always say self care is not just about the outside, it's the inside. It's knowing
Mhm,
what is the root, what are the things that are causing me to be stressed out. And yes, we know, right, it's the classroom stuff, but how am I dealing with it? How am I internaling it? Am I going to the point where I'm taking care of myself, or am I neglecting myself
mhm.
for someone else? So I really love how you brought that up for that particular space. I'm going to take a little bit of a pivot, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I love your viewpoint. It's very different. You talk about with students, and I need y'all to hear this now. Give her a chance and listen to this one. In our conversation, she spoke about Miss Green spoke about how students deserve to have a seat at the table when making decisions.
Mhm.
Can you please elaborate that one for me? Because I'm just wondering. Talk to me. What do you feel about it?
So I come to this from a school belonging lens, and um So just a little bit about like what exists out there about school belonging. When we typically have looked at school belonging, it's been about interpersonal connections, like how nice my teacher is to me, how welcome I feel in their classroom. And I think that's important to a lot of us, right? Like we want to greet our kids at the door. We want to do like a temperature check before we just roll into learning. We want to make sure that our students are nice to each other. That we're eliminating sarcasm and things of like that nature, right? Um,
Okay, so really building a true community within that classroom.
Building a true community, interpersonal community at least, right? And
Okay.
so my mentor and some other colleagues have thought really deeply about, school belonging for Black students in particular. And two of the things that they have us to think more about is culturally responsive teaching, which a lot of us already do. We're affirming students' identities and their home backgrounds. And that is a way that we can think about school belonging. Like we are bridging those two worlds for our kids to make school feel more congruent to like who they are. Another way that we can think about school belonging is by thinking about our policies and our social norms and our procedures. And if we think about those things, there are groups that are going to be advantaged by our policies and norms and those who may not be. And it's not about intentionality. These are just realities that happen, and yeah, intentionally or unintentionally. And so when it comes to, kids having a seat at the table or our students having a seat at the table, that's possible when we really think about our policies and we think about the spaces that feel good to them or the spaces that they avoid. There's something about those spaces that students can give us their insights about. Not only does that help us to rethink about our school culture, think about what third spaces or exist in our schools, what affinity groups could still exist. We could create student groups that we could create so that our students feel that they can be their authentic selves in our schools. But it's also about how do we allow students to be part of the decision making? How do we know what problems are important to us versus the problems that are important to our kids? And how can that grow, again, not only the culture but like student outcomes? We don't know what's possible when a student actually feels comfortable, right? We think about this through test taking a lot, so we'll think about the fidget toys and we'll think about the music or the ambiance, right? There we
Mhm.
allow them to have decision and contributions in that when we're thinking about outcomes. But what does it look like for us to have a student council that is thinking deeply about community, school, county issues, and students from various schools, if not just one school, are coming together to come up with solutions, right? Um, what does it look like for students to um, canvas our campuses and tell us in what spaces they feel the most respected? Or in what spaces do they avoid because of potential like bullying or potential like other forms of like harassment or things, right? This is ways that we learn more about our campus, about how we can change it, and not from our perceptions, but because students are active. When we allow our students to be change agents and decision makers, that poises other students to think of themselves as change agents and decision makers. So now we have a culture of students who think of themselves as leaders, right? Um, and even if they don't think of themselves as leaders per se, they know that in this campus there's an opportunity for me to have a voice, which may be different than how schools have been traditionally run, right? So I think that there's a lot of affordances to us leaning into students' opinions, to their perspectives. It builds their leadership, it builds their research skills, right? It builds perspective taking. When we think about the climate, the administration, and all these decisions, the political climate that we're in right now, we need our students to be able to form an argument. We need them to be able to produce claims. We need them to be able to perspective take because these are just good things to know how to do. But how often are some of our class settings allowing for them to do these things? Like,
Okay, so wait a minute. I gotta pause for the cause because I mean this. I love the intake. I love the extra on that part. So I'm gonna pause for the cause because we got some bills to pay. So listen, guys. Let me do my little quick little plug in real quick. If you are a teacher and you're saying, "Hey, I just need a place to vent, to just share what's going on with me," head on over to the 3smovement.com. Let's set up an appointment. Let's talk about how we can help you make it through these days. Because I know they're getting challenging, right? And if you are one of the students and you say, "Hey, I need a vent session," guess what? We got a space for you to come in and talk with some of our teams as they share with you in the venting. And they help you to get it out and feel in a safe place to have that conversation. All right, y'all, we got to go kick back into this because I'm telling you, listen, Miss Greener just blew my mind on this students having a seat at the table to make decisions. She got me. I'm going to tell you, she got me on that one. It was good. We're going to pick back up on the conversation with students and digital literacy.
mm,
So, walk me back into this because we left off with you talking about students having a seat at the table when making decisions, but you also had an interesting take on what did it look like with students being able to connect their technology and their student learning and bringing the gap together.
okay. So I want to use an example of one of the partnerships to kind of pivot us into this conversation. I worked on an amazing project for 3 years. I feel comfortable saying it because you can visit the website and all that. So I worked on a project called iScholar. It's a partnership between NC State, Durham Public Schools, two particular schools. And over the 3 years that I worked on it, it blossomed, it kind of changed. And now we're at year, I think, 8. And it's very much still focused on introducing students to like STEM concepts and helping them to see themselves as change agents, but the format looks a little different. So I want to use a competition within this project for us to think about belonging, but also digital literacy. So part of one of our activities for one of the semesters was using a software called digital or Google SketchUp. And if you're not familiar, Google SketchUp is a free software where you can do 3D modeling, essentially. And so this set of activities was about the fact that like Durham Public Housing Administration, not remember, can't remember the term. They have vouchers for folks in need of homes. And this is real time. So again, thinking about the activities and we're connecting it to their community and bringing out STEM all at the same time or engineering concepts at the same time. The activity was framed that there's vouchers available in your community. We want to think about building tiny houses for folks.
Mm,
And so we
okay.
use Google SketchUp to I had, so thinking about the project itself, I just developed these activities. I pitched them to the teachers in these PD workshops where they came to campus. We spent all day really familiarizing ourselves with the activities. So built in here is us teaching teachers about digital SketchUp. They then go back into their sites. They do these activities with the students. The students now learn about Google SketchUp. One teacher in particular, she takes on this project and it's transformed from this little after school activity to she takes a team to California and they win a national competition where that activity was turned from thinking about tiny houses to thinking about their school and how they would design an ideal school. This is also around
Whoa.
the time of Black Panther. So we're thinking about Wakanda, and we've done activities thinking about like the Adinkra symbols and all the symbolism that you see in the movies. And so to kind of wrap up me bringing up this project, because we were thinking deeply about the technology, we were thinking deeply about how to make this relevant to students. We then made somewhat of a council of iScholar students that went on to compete, and there was levels to this competition. They were able to articulate all of the design features of this project. They were able to just talk about the importance of having yourself represented within your school context. Um, and again, we're years out from these accolades and things, but I use it as an example that if we're thinking deeply about the fact that students know themselves, they know what schools could be, they know why they're there, but they also have visions for what it could be. We could tool that into technology projects, but we can also tool that into really transformative things, such as students sitting with us at the table. Now, to draw on,
So
go ahead.
no, no, go ahead because you said something I want to catch on. But go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to bring us back to more so the conversation on digital literacy now. So,
Okay.
what were we going to ask?
When we talk about the literacy, the thing that I know that for each teacher, everybody has their own level, right? I know when COVID kicked in, uh, I had to go help my neighbor get
Mhm.
situated and understand the levels of how to get on, what to do. How do you feel we bridge the gap with digital learning at home? Is there a way to bridge that gap for those parents at home who are struggling to try to figure out, because most times we're on social media or on these different things for fun,
Mhm.
and it's a big difference from just clicking into this app for a fun thing, right? Because you're excited to, I'm now taking this thing that was fun to me and now I got to sit here.
Mhm.
So is there any way or any advice you would give to a parent at that point?
The advice that I would give to a parent is first consult your teachers and your schools. So I have other thoughts, but I would say first consult your teachers and your schools. Some schools have to, depending on their funding sources, they have to host, the term is slipping my mind, but they have to host like parent nights or student engagement nights, right? And so it
Okay.
could be that during COVID, they recorded some of these sessions that are more informational about how to use technology. It could be that your Department of Public Instruction may have resources available again on their websites to
Okay.
help parents. I am a huge proponent, especially as our climate is changing. Um, that's something that I want to do on a multi-generational level. Like, because it's not just parents, we have grandparents stepping in who are caretakers, we have aunts and uncles that also need this information. And I think as I, potentially am talking to teachers that are looking or thinking about how to do things differently inside and outside of the classroom, hosting these types of sessions might be, you know, a way that we remedy the fact that there is a disconnect. Like, I say that to say we can't always depend on our schools. Um, it's not just a classroom level issue. So, like, if you're only thinking about the 40 teachers or students that you serve, think about your network. Think about how many people you know with kids, how many people you know that have youth groups in our churches, or how many people
Mhm.
are coaches of basketball teams. Like, when I hear this question, I do think that it's not our issue in terms of the onus, but we are equipped to potentially lead some free sessions or some community sessions to get the information out on how to use these software. I also think that it is about changing our algorithm a little bit, right? When we talk about our phones and things, we are looking at the things that entertain us most of the time.
Mhm.
I know that as soon as I became a mother and started looking up different things on my Instagram, it changed what it was going to give me. So I I don't want to get in your grown folk business, but like maybe it's simply saying like how to use Zoom, and then all of a sudden you're going to get um your feed will have people who are teachers who are seeing this information, or principals who are teaching this information. I think there's really easy ways that like we can get the information if we knew how to search for it, or we knew how to use the same habits that we use for things for entertainment to just make it a little bit more educational.
So I want to go to the next one, and I think you did an excellent job in wrapping that up. You did. Um, I've been hearing a lot about AI in the classroom, and I have some people who are haranguing it, and they're like, "These are the good parts of AI in the classroom." But I also got others that's like, "Honey, just AI in the classroom." They got a whole different spin. Can you share from your vantage point what you consider to be the good pieces of AI in the classroom, at least your top three, and then your top three of what is the bad of AI or the not so great part of AI in the classroom?
So a little bit of context. I said that I study in a ed psych ed tech program. I also
Mhm.
attend faculty meetings because of one of my roles. So what has been really interesting is hearing ed tech researchers like kind of it get heated in faculty meetings as we have these conversations, because as a graduate student at every level of education, we're having the same conversation. Um, how is AI doing the work for our students, or how is it helping them to think critically? And
That's good.
so, um, what I would say the top three good ways of using it. Number one, I would say for like, let me think about how I actually want to respond to this. So AI can be good for like outlining, right?
Okay.
So um I have to write a paper about podcasting. Here are my
Okay.
thoughts about it so far. Help me to create an outline to organize these thoughts, right? Like that's a conversation you might have as a teacher with your student, because they have information about it, but they need help with organizing it. That's a way that
Okay.
we're helping students to not have it do our work, but potentially take away from it. Okay, I need to define what podcasting is. Okay, in my little blurb, I wrote about some of the pros and cons. Okay, it's helping me to organize, how I should talk about this and then a counterpoint, and talk about this, but a counterpoint, right? So it could be good use in those outlining kind of ways. Um, it can be used there are so many good uses for AI. It can be used for proofreading. So
Hmm.
teaching how to talk to it. So act as a reading coach. Where can my transitions be better? Or could you give me an example of a transition between my first two sentences, right? So it can help students in this way that, again, they may know what areas in their work may need improvement, but they may not
Mhm.
have the verbiage to necessarily do it. So that's where if you were editing it as a teacher, you would just be going in and saying, "Hey, change this to," and then the next time, or you would just be giving
Okay.
phrases. Um, I'm gonna pause there, and can I talk
Okay.
about the not so great ways?
Okay. So,
Um,
what are some not great ways?
Not great ways is asking it to do the homework for you. Putting the question
Ah.
in, putting the whole prompt to your essay in. Um, because this is where we need to teach about the technology. um do they know that it's plagiarizing, right? So like
That's a good one.
I think the reality is, before I even answer this question, and maybe why it choked me up on the first one, I have an advisor who talks about technology integration. He talks about teaching about technology. So we have to teach about the harms. We have to teach about cybersecurity. We have to teach about AI, like what it is. There's us teaching through it, right? So you might use some type of visualization type software to teach graphs through this software, right? Or you
Okay.
might be teaching about so that's through. And then you might be using like Google Docs to teach um paragraph formation. That's teaching with versus I could be using pen and paper, right? So if we
Okay.
understand three distinctions about technology, we have to teach about it, knowing that we can teach through it, and then most often we teach with it, right? If we
That's
focus
good.
on teaching about technology, I think some of our fears would be reduced because we're going to get into etiquette. We're going to get into the dangers. We're going to get into what it means to be a consumer versus a creator. And I think that's where a lot of people's hesitation is because maybe the ways that we consume it, we don't know how to then frame activities in a way that promotes critical thinking, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is some of our hang up. Even at the graduate level, again, I'm in these faculty meetings and that's where the conversation is kind of settling. Do we not want graduate students, doctoral students, master students to use it? Or do we need to change what the activity is so that
Mm.
if they use it, it's not doing the critical thinking for them, even if it is assisting them, right? Because that's where the tension is. If I don't know how to facilitate well with it, of course the kids are going to do the things that we don't want them to do. Because have we set an expectation of how to use it? Have we set an expectation of rigor for why we're using it?
So I'm gonna go back for a second because I I could see where you're saying it was good to use it for the outline. I could see where you're saying it was good for the proofreading to help, those who may be struggling with that. I think I think the part that kind of is a little bit overloading is saying, okay, now I gotta go back and teach you how what we're doing with that. Now, as you spoke about earlier, that would be a great community class for someone in the community to come and say, okay, let's actually teach about the technology so that you understand that this is plagiarism, so that you understand that this is not your work. You know, that this is a culmination of other people's work that just so happened ChatGPT or any other one, Bart or anybody else, spit out. Um, Wow, that was a little bit deeper than I thought, but it was good though. I like it. I like that. We're gonna pause for the calls, and I'll see you all in two. Hey, y'all. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit in with us. We're not done yet. We still got more to go. It is awesome sauce for sure. Listen, as we've been talking about this, the first thing came to my mind is, have you joined for the workshops this week? Have you looked to find out what's the way that you're going to help your child with this next 9 weeks? Have you sat down and said, I need to find some tools, some techniques? Maybe my baby was struggling last 9 weeks. Well, I tell you what, come on over to the 3S movement. We do some workshops to help you help your baby if they're having a little bit of a struggle. We want to be a part of your child's success. Come on over, connect with us, and make sure that you book one of these workshops with us. All right, y'all, I got to get back into this because this got really good. And I got to tell you, as we started talking, I now got to switch the topics over to teachers. So now I would love to know for your input on the teachers, because this was a good one that I really loved in our conversation about the teachers having the magic. So many years, we tend to have those teachers that everybody is saying, you got the magic, you got it, you could do it. Oh, it's going to be amazing. But how do we make sure that all teachers belong and that all teachers show the magic, not just those selected few?
Yeah, so again, I love to think about how teachers feel valued. And I think the example
Mm.
that you used is bringing up this reality that teachers can be recognized. A lot of Black teachers are recognized for classroom management in particular. Like,
Yes.
it even overshadows how great of a leader teachers are, or how flexibly they think, how deeply intellectual we are, because we are pigeonholed into being like this ground level disciplinarian for everyone. And I think that dehumanizes us. It takes away the um, reality that it is deeply emotional work and physical work to have classrooms that are built on trust and that follow procedures, or have that vibe to them. And so, bringing that back to school belonging, I think there's ways that when you are such an exemplar teacher, you're valued or recognized for those things, but
Hmm.
are you fully humanized in it? Like, do you get a break at any point? Are you celebrated in a way that truly feels genuine to you, or are you just celebrated on like a surface level? Um, yeah, so those are some of the ways that I'm thinking about teacher belonging. I'm also thinking about, for some of us, are you tokenized in your setting?
Mm.
In the same way that you may be celebrated for being like a cultural broker with your students, knowing the slang or just empathizing with what they're going through, are you also scrutinized for that? Because now
Mhm.
you're the only teacher who really knows what's going on, you know? Are you now scrutinized for the ways that you're able to engage with students? So I think a lot about how belonging for Black teachers, because of our racial identities, because of our realities of maybe being the only one on the team or the only one in our school setting, what it means to feel respected, valued, supported, seen, heard, recognized, is a lot more nuanced than for some of our colleagues. And some of my work would love to explore that reality of belonging for more Black teachers.
I I love that you talked about this because I think so many of us are so accustomed to, if you've ever been in a classroom setting, you've been that person that, you know what, you're amazing, you're great. Oh my God, we couldn't do it without you. But it's like, can somebody else share the magic too? I would love somebody else to share their magic. So I don't have to be the only one. I love how you even brought up about being overlooked for those positions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because so many times we have amazing teachers that are saying, I want to go higher too. I want to do something different. And like you even talked about being pigeonholed because you are that good disciplinarian. I think that's something that needs to be looked at. I'm going to let you have your final thought because this has been such a great conversation. I've loved it
Yeah.
for sure. Please share your final thought of what we can do to make our classrooms better.
So my final thought on how we can make our classrooms better. I see this a lot in the digital spaces, where we are coming together to create kind of affinity groups, to vent, to share strategies, to just empower each other as we go into these hostile, sometimes like school climates. I think one of the best
Mhm.
things that we could do to support ourselves is to, and this comes from my researcher lens, don't judge me. I think it's to visualize where we want to be 5 years from now, and
That's
start
a
making
good one.
those connections to get there. If that's leadership, lean into some of these digital spaces with other leaders. If it's pivoting out of the classroom, um, start to think with folks who are doing that work, because I think where I'm going with my work and who I would like to support, if students are the outcome, if students are who we want to ultimately serve, we know schools are not the only way to do that. And so, as you think about your well being, as you think about your finances, your retirement, your family, your locale, like all of those things, maybe it's joining a great research practice partnership and realize and having the opportunities to be at on a university campus more often, and maybe you can visualize yourself there in a way that you never have before. Or maybe it's in these community circles you'll learn about a nonprofit that you're inspired, you've already been inspired to start that nonprofit for yourself, but you just needed to see it was possible for real. And now you can still serve your community and bring out all your talents and skills that were being stifled in some of our schools. In the same way, if you just need some more community to know that you are the leader that you desire to be in someone's school, again, join those groups, begin the conversation. I love that your platform has these vent sessions. It also has the workshops for the parents and for the teens. We are going to have to depend on ourselves, I think, in the next phase or next 4 years. And that doesn't have to be this like daunting thing. I think it's actually really inspiring that people are creating more platforms for us to share what our roles are in education. Like I would love to hear more from the district leaders that you may have on, or the school leaders, or the student advocates. Sometimes we just need to know that it's possible. It doesn't just look like the face in the classroom that got me into education. you know?
I love this because you gave us such an amazing final thought. I don't have nothing to add to it. Let me go ahead and tell that right now. I have nothing I can add to this because it was such an amazing final thought that it's about us working collaboratively, not working as a working in a competition with each other. Uh, Oh man, how our time just has flown by. I'm telling you, this has been amazing. If you have a teacher in your life, this means if it is a public school teacher, a private school teacher, a charter school teacher, a faith based school teacher, and even if it's a homeschool teacher, I won't tell nobody.
Mhm.
But if you want to highlight them, go ahead over to the info at the 3smovement.com and send us an email. Tell us about these amazing people in this world who are doing some great things that may not be getting highlighted on social media or may not be getting highlighted at the school. We want to celebrate you. That is what we are about here at the 3S Movement. We want to celebrate those educators that are going over and beyond to make our children better. Well, I thank y'all again for tuning in to the Patrice Brantley Show, where helping others is the name of the game, and we push purpose, positivity, and personal growth. I can't wait to see you again for the next great episode.